People before profit have no confidence in the Minister for Justice. We have no confidence in this government, and we want the government to go. The government is responsible for record levels of rent, record levels of homelessness, and almost record levels of house prices. The government is responsible for almost 1 million people being on some form of public health waiting lists. The government is responsible for not protecting people from the cost of living crisis, which saw corporate profits soar while ordinary people have struggled to put food on the table. The government is responsible for the deep inequality and deprivation which still exists right across our society, while private landlords make super profits, while big fossil fuel companies make super profits, while private health companies make super profits. What has that got to do with any of this? Well, it is those conditions which are exploited by the far right, turning people's legitimate anger not against those who are responsible, the government and the class that they represent, but instead blaming some of the most marginalised, some of the most vulnerable people in our society, asylum seekers, LGBTQ people and women. And how has the government responded to this abuse, to this incitement that we've seen from the far right? They've responded by conceding ground. Look at what Simon Coveney told the Financial Times just last week. He said we have to listen to people, listen to those rioters effectively, and then linked to that was the idea that asylum seekers are going to shamefully be put on the street with nothing but €75 a week. That isn't the first time. People can read the article, it's no problem. That isn't the first time. I have. That isn't the first time. The government fundamentally legitimised the rhetoric and the dehumanisation of the far right by creating an inhuman, completely unfair discrimination between asylum seekers, treating Ukrainians the way decent people would expect refugees to be treated, but treating people who are coming from other conflicts, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, in a completely inhumane way, putting people into direct provision at best, putting them onto the streets where they're vulnerable to be attacked by people whipped up by the far right at worst. We saw more of it today by the government, choosing to say that this moment is a moment like Micheál Martin chose to say the far left is effectively as bad as the far right, giving it about some leaflet People Before Profit produced in Cork. But look, what did you say? No, I didn't. Can I suggest there was a trial about that? I think there was a trial about that.
Thank you.
It's absolutely shameful.
Deputy Murphy, through the chair.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Through the chair.
What's happening now? The far right is organising. We have been calling out this organising for well over a year. We've been pointing out the truth that your police force, presumably with your agreement, has taken a softly approach all through the line. The Gardaí allowed people to board buses. The Gardaí allowed far-right agitators to go in and harass librarians and harass pharmacists. The Gardaí were there just before refugees were burnt out at Sandwich Street. And where was the left in that? The left was standing with the refugees in Sandwich Street, trying to protect them from the attacks of the far right. The left was organising for the Ireland for All demonstration. Your system of deep inequality, of discrimination, creates the breeding ground for this, and then you will not take a stand against them. We have no confidence in you. What we have to look to is the movement of ordinary people, is the trade union movement. They're the only force that will be able to resist this rising menace of hatred, of division, of the far right.